Hesham, Jamil, call me Wala, and I hope you all are doing well. And as you all know, every day we will do a podcast with CC AI Maya, and we will discuss different topics with him, and we will learn much about him. So today again, I am here with Sisin A Maya in my show 3 Sounds, and today I will discuss the topic: what happens when the Earth's plate moves with Sisin A Maya, and I am going to learn on this topic from it, and what happens like when the Earth's tectonic plates move or any plate moves. So let's get started and stay tuned to learn on it and know about the plate tectonics. So let's get started. First of all, hello Maya, how are you?
A formal introduction. Nice. And Cis? Is that a new nickname? I'm learning so much already. Go on.
Okay, Maya. So Maya, now can we start our podcast on my topic?
Yep, absolutely. Lead the way. What's on the agenda today?
Yes, Maya, I'll already tell you about my topic. So now we have to start from the basics of this. So Maya, many people don't know about the tectonic plates. So first of all, please tell us that what are tectonic plates?
Okay, tectonic plates, right. So basically, imagine the Earth's outer shell, the lithosphere. Is it one solid piece? It's broken up into huge chunks, like a cracked eggshell. Those chunks are the tectonic plates. They're made of both continental and oceanic crust. And they're constantly, though super slowly, moving around on top of this semi-molten mantle below. Does that make sense as a starting point?
Yes, Maya, that makes sense. As starting points, thank you so much for telling us that tectonic plates about. So Maya, can you tell us that how were tectonic plates formed?
Okay, so how they form, that's a pretty deep dive, actually. Um, it's not like they just popped into existence one day. It's tied to the Earth's early formation and how it's cooled over billions of years. Basically, when Earth first formed, it was all molten rock. As it cooled, this outer layer solidified, but it didn't cool evenly. Different densities of rock formed, and convection currents in the mantle, kind of like boiling water, started to create stresses. Those stresses eventually caused the lithosphere to fracture and break into these plates. It's a really long process happening over, well, geological time. They actually, a little complicated, yeah?
Hmm.
Still with me?
Okay. Yes,
Is
Maya,
that
I am still with you.
okay? Good. Just wanted to check you're thinking right. That's good. So, where were we? Plates forming. Anything you want me to elaborate on there, or should we move on to how they interact with each
No,
other?
no, Maya, I have more questions for this topic. So, wait for next question. I
Shoot.
was just clearing the settings of my podcast. So now it is clear, I think. So, so Maya, can you tell
Technical.
us that why do the Earth's plates move?
Okay, so it all comes down to those convection currents in the mantle, like I mentioned before. Imagine a pot, a boiling water. Hotter, less dense stuff rises. Cooler, denser stuff sinks. It's the same thing happening inside the Earth, but on a massive scale. Those moving currents exert a drag on the plates above, causing them to shift around. There are also some other forces at play, like slab pull, where a denser plate sinking into the mantle pulls the rest of the plate along with it. But convection is the big driver. It's not a quick process either. We're talking centimeters per year.
Okay, that's great.
Still with me?
Yes, fine. I'm still with you. I think there was an internet issue, and my voice is like coming to you is like taking a time a while. So, Maya, can you tell us that what are the plates, boundaries, and how are they classified? Extremely interesting question and
Okay,
important.
that makes sense. It is. Plate boundaries are where all the action happens. Essentially, they're the edges where these tectonic plates meet. And they're classified into three main types, depending on how the plates are interacting: convergent, divergent, and transform. Convergent boundaries are where plates collide. Divergent boundaries are where they move apart. And transform boundaries are where they slide past each other. Each type creates different geological features: mountains, volcanoes, earthquakes, you name it. Does that give you a basic overview? We can dive deeper into each type if you'd like.
Hmm. Okay. Okay, man, we
Good.
will.
So,
Yes, yes.
Braylon.
I think you
Hi,
want
Braylon.
to ask something, so you can continue it.
You're right to call me out on that. I do. Sorry, just getting used to the things here. So, back to plate boundaries. Did you want to hear more detail about the different types or move on to something else?
Yeah, if you explain or if you tell us in detail, so it will be better.
You absolutely may. Please go ahead. I'm happy to listen to your understanding of it first. Sometimes hearing it explained back to me helps me tailor the information better too.
Okay, so can you please tell us in detail about it?
Okay, detail it is. Let's start with boundaries. Those are where two plates collide. There are a few different things that can happen here, depending on what kind of crust is involved. If it's two continental plates colliding, like the Indian plate crashing into the Eurasian plate, you get massive mountain ranges forming, like the Himalayas. If it's an oceanic plate colliding with a continental plate, the denser oceanic plate gets forced underneath the continental plate in a process called subduction, creating volcanoes and trenches. And if it's two oceanic plates colliding subducts under the other, also forming volcanoes and trenches. Then you've got divergent boundaries where plates move apart. This usually happens underwater at mid-ocean ridges where magma rises up from the mantle to create new crust. It's like a seam in the ocean floor. And finally, boundaries where plates slide past each other horizontally. The San Andreas Fault in California is a classic example. These boundaries don't create or destroy crust, but they do cause a lot of earthquakes. Is that making sense? Want me to elaborate on any of those or move on?
Yes, fine. Now we have to move on because it's enough to understand the plates only. So, Maya, now can you tell us that what happens at a convergent boundary?
Okay, good. Moving on. At a convergent boundary, a lot can happen, as I touched on before. It really depends on what's colliding. If you have plates smashing together, like India and Eurasia, not so they crumple and fold, creating huge mountain ranges. Think of it like pushing two rugs together on the floor. That's transformed if you have an oceanic plate and a continental plate colliding. Denser oceanic plate gets subducted or forced underneath the continental one. That oceanic plate sinks in the mantle, creates magma, which rises to the surface and forms volcanoes. How the Andes Mountains in South America formed. This process also creates deep ocean trenches. And finally, when two oceanic plates collide, the older, denser one subducts beneath the other, forming volcanic island arcs. Chain volcanic islands. Got it?
Okay, that's nice. Thank you so much
Just
for
checking.
telling us little pieces of knowledge. And so, so Maya, now my next question is that what is subduction and why is it important? Like I listened about it very much, but I don't know about it. So can you tell us that what is it and why it is so important?
Okay, good Good question. Subduction is a really key process. As I mentioned, it's what happens when one tectonic plate slides underneath. Typically, it's an oceanic plate going under a continental or another oceanic because oceanic crust is denser. As that plate sinks into it heats up and releases water, which lowers the melting point surrounding mantle rock. That creates magma, which then rises to the surface and fuels volcanoes. But it's more than subduction also plays a huge role in recycling Earth. It's how old crust gets pulled back into the new crust is formed. It also drives a lot of earthquake activity. Basically, it's a really important part of the Earth, helping to regulate temperatures and maintain the planet's geological. It's kind of a messy, destructive, and creative process all at once, actually. Does that help explain it?
Sorry,
Still listening?
sorry,
It's
Maya.
okay if it's
Yes, yes.
still there. Sometimes the
Yes, Maya.
connection PI. Okay, good. Sorry to interrupt your thought process. So back to subduction. You'd like me to clarify? Or are we ready to move on?
No, no, Maya, we need to move on because like everything is clear. No need to expecting more. So Maya, now can you tell us that how does seafloor spreading occur? Like it's very interesting and important question.
Sea floor spreading. Got it. Okay, so that happens at divergent path where plates are moving apart, usually in the middle as the plates separate, magma rises up, mantle to fill the gap, creating new oceanic crust. This newly formed is hot and less dense, so rises and forms underwater mountain ranges called mid-ocean ridges. As more magma rises and cools, it pushes the older crust from the ridge, causing the seafloor to spread. It's like a conveyor belt, creating new crust and moving the old crust away. This is why the Atlantic Ocean is getting wider and the Pacific Ocean is getting... And it's all powered by those convection currents in the mantle.
It's fine, that makes sense. It fully like it's a really amazing answer. So now Maya, so now can you explain that how does plate movement cause earthquakes? Like I really listened much about that plate movements cause the earthquakes. So can you please tell it in detail because it's a I know that it's a detailed topic. So tell us all about them, all things in much detail, so I can understand the all things about it. Full detail, please.
Detail on earthquakes. Absolutely. So, earthquakes are primarily caused by the movement and interaction of tectonic plates. It's not a smooth gliding motion, though. The plates get stuck. Imagine trying to slide two rough surfaces past each other. They build up friction. That friction creates stress along the plate boundaries. Eventually, that stress becomes too great, and the rocks suddenly slip, releasing energy in the form of seismic waves. Those waves are what we feel as an earthquake. There are different types of faults. Breaks in the Earth's crust, where slips occur. Strike slip faults, like the San Andreas, are where plates slide horizontally past each other. Normal, where one plate moves down relative to the other at divergent boundaries. And reverse faults, or thrust faults, are where one plate moves up over the other, typically at convergent boundaries. The point where the earthquake originates underground, hypocenter or focus. The point directly above that on the surface is called the epicenter. The severity of an earthquake is measured on the Richter scale, which is logarithmic, meaning each whole number increase represents a 10-fold increase in amplitude and about a 32-fold increase in energy. So a magnitude 6 earthquake is 10 times stronger than a 5 earthquake and roughly 32. Does that give you a better picture of what's going on? It's a complex process, but fundamentally about built up stress and sudden relief.
Yes, man, it was a really long topic, but you spent in a very good way and in an easy way. I really understand it, and thank you so much again for telling us about it. So, Maya, now can you tell us that how are mountains formed by plate tectonics? I also listened that mountains are formed by the plate tectonics. So, can you tell us that how are mountains formed in by plate tectonics?
Okay, you're right to push back on that. Mountains aren't just formed by plate tectonics, it's more nuanced. But plate tectonics is absolutely the primary driver. As we discussed, the biggest mountain ranges, like the Himalayas, are formed by the collision of continental plates. The immense pressure and force of that collision crumbles and folds the crust to create mountains. But there are other ways plate tectonics contributes. Volcanic mountains, like Mount Fuji, are formed by the subduction of oceanic plates as the magma rises and erupts. Fault block mountains are formed when normal faults cause large blocks of crust to uplift. So, while not every mountain is a direct result of a massive collision, plate tectonics is almost always involved in their creation, either directly through collision or through volcanism and melting. It's a really complex entry, and other factors like erosion play a big role in shaping the mountain too. Does that clear up the confusion a bit?
Yes, ma'am. It makes clears my confusion and also understand that. So thank you so much for telling us. So Maya, so now can you tell us that what is the fault line?
Good. Excellent. Glad we got to a clear understanding. So, a fault line, or fault, is essentially a fracture in the Earth's crust where rocks have moved past each other. It's where the plates are either actively moving or have moved in the past. It can be tiny, just a few inches long, or huge, stretching for hundreds of miles. We talked about them a little when discussing earthquakes. That's because earthquakes happen along fault lines. The different types of fault lines, stripe, normal, and reverse, determine relative to each other. Fault lines aren't always visible on the surface. Some are buried underground. But they can often be identified by features like offset streams, scarps, small cliffs, or linear valleys. They are kind of like the scars of the Earth, marking where the planet has been stretched, squeezed, and broken. Does that make sense?
Yes, Maya, that makes sense. Thanks for learning it. And like I talked about the fault line, and but I was listening about the fault line, but I don't know about it. So now you can explain it. You explained it, though I don't know it. And what is fault line? How it works? So Maya, now tell me that can plate movement islands or just mountains?
Okay, good question. Plate movement can absolutely create islands. It doesn't just make mountains. There are a few ways this happens. Volcanic islands like Hawaii are formed areas of intense volcanic activity under the crust. As the tectonic moves over the hot spot, magma rises and creates volcanic islands. Another way islands are formed is through the process of island arc formation at convergent boundaries where two oceanic plates collide. It subducts. Magma rises and forms a chain of volcanic islands. And occasionally, land can be uplifted by plate movement, creating islands. So, plate tectonics is a major creator of islands as well as mountains. They're both products of the Earth's dynamic crust. The fault line, do you mean fault line? I think there may have been a slight transcription error there. If you meant fault line, we just discussed it. But if you meant something else, could you clarify?
Yes, Maya. I want
Still
to
with
discuss. So Maya, now we have to move on next topic. Sorry, like next section of the historical events and evidence. So Maya, can you tell us that what major historical earthquakes were caused by the plate movement?
historical liquids in like 2 minutes. I'm a little lost. I think there might be some transcription issues again. Could you rephrase that, please? I want to talk about how earthquakes are
No, no,
measured
Maya. No,
historically,
no,
but I'm not sure.
Maya. My question was that what major historical earthquakes were caused by the plate movement?
Ah, okay, that makes much more sense. My apologies. Yes, absolutely. Plate movement has caused some of the most devastating earthquakes in recorded history. The 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami, which killed 230,000 people, was caused by the subduction of the Indian plate under the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami in Japan, which led to the Fukushima nuclear disaster, was subduction of the Pacific plate under the Okhotsk plate. The 1960 delay, the largest earthquake ever recorded, was also caused by subduction. And going further back, the 1700 Cascadia earthquake along the west coast of North America was caused by the subduction of the Fuka plate under the North American plate. These are just a few examples. Almost all major historical earthquakes are plate movement. It's a sobering thought, but it really highlights the power of these forces. Want to focus on a specific earthquake, and I can tell you more about it?
Yes, Maya, can you
Still
tell
there.
more about it? Because I really love to explore history.
That's wonderful. I'm happy to go deeper. What aspect of the history of earthquakes and plate tectonics interests you most? Do you want to talk about specific historical earthquakes in more detail? Or the discovery of plate tectonics itself? Maybe how ancient civilizations interpreted these events? Game for whatever you're curious about.
Maya, I was just talking about the tectonics, whole history plate tectonics. Well,
You mean plate tectonics? Yes, the history of the theory itself. Okay, that's a fascinating topic. It's a surprisingly recent development, actually. For a long time, people noticed that the continents looked like they could fit together, like a puzzle, but didn't have a good explanation for it. The first real proposal came from Wegener, a meteorologist, in 1912. He proposed the theory of continent, suggesting that the continents had once been joined to a supercontinent called Pangaea and had gradually drifted millions of years. But he couldn't explain how the continents, so his theory was largely dismissed. It wasn't until the 1960s, with the discovery of and the understanding of convection currents in the that the theory of plate tectonics really took hold. Scientists realized that the continents weren't just drifting through the ocean, they were riding on these moving plates. It was a paradigm shift, our understanding of Earth's geology. Does that give you a sense of the timeline? We can go into more detail about the key scientists involved or the evidence that
I don't
supported
want to
this.
go in the deep, and because my time of interview is completed, and it's just 1 minute left. So now I have to end my interview. So in end, please give an advice or message to my viewers about the like how if they will want to learn about plate tectonics or how they learn or everything in just one sentence. In just one sentence of 7 to 8 words. In just one sentence because time is really short.
Absolutely. For your viewers, explore Earth's dynamic story. Plate. We're all set? Is there anything else before you?
I
All
don't
right.
want to discuss anything more. I'm just wrapping up my interview. This is today's my interview with Maya. She said, "Hi Maya," and I hope you learn a lot from it. So see you in the next interview with Maya. Till then, Allah Hafiz. In end, as always, Pakistan. See you all of you, and Allah Hafiz.